Hello, my name is Danny Donaldson, and this is my CCHE 590 final project. For the course, we've been asked to identify a real-world teaching problem and to identify the most appropriate solution that incorporates an element of technology. So for this course, I've identified my teaching problem to be that there is oftentimes too much information and not enough time to cover all of the content material. While I'm true that this is something that happens in the classroom setting, my project is more focused specifically on admissions recruitment and the presentations that we give for prospective students. So prospective students range from middle school to transfer students and everything in between. Essentially, a prospective student has shown interest. They might have applied, they might have been admitted, but they're not an actual student on our campus. So our role as admissions officers is to provide them with as much information as we can. And what I've learned in 4 years of being a part of the NAU admissions team is that no matter how thorough of a presentation you think you've given, you'll always get two varying pieces of feedback. One that says, we wish you would have covered more financial aid information, and another that says, you covered too much financial aid information. So I've really learned that students are more interested in their own individual situations, and so I think for that problem is how do we cover a lot of information that addresses the concerns of many students in the room, but maybe not necessarily getting to every individual question. So the solution that I've identified is having learning outcomes for each of the presentations that we give on our campus. Because those presentations are going to vary whether you're presenting for a freshman in high school versus a senior in high school, and even a transfer student looking at the university. I've decided that using a presentation as a visual aid is going to be our best technology tool that we can use, specifically Prezi, because it's easy to share a link to those presentations after we've given the presentation, or if someone's unable to attend, we can send that information out to them. So really, we need to first identify the learning outcomes that we have associated with each presentation. So you'll see listed here for freshman students, maybe it's just covering general information. What makes Flagstaff different from the rest of Arizona? Because we get snow here. General academic knowledge, so knowing that colleges can be a part of the overall university system. Addressing admissions requirements and recommending these are your 16 core courses that we're going to look for once you're a senior, so making sure you're taking those courses throughout your high school career. And then general financial aid information, I think, would be applicable at that point in time. For sophomores, I think exploring what makes a good fit for a university, so academic, social, financial fit, and how to pick a major. What is it that interests you, and how can you apply that to what you'll pursue in college? I think it'd be helpful at that point also to talk about the benefits of AP courses, honors courses, and dual enrollment courses. And then also touching on athletic recruitment, because oftentimes junior year is when they'll start to hear from athletic recruiters. For juniors, I think identifying ACT and SAT testing requirements, going over the FAFSA information, maybe considering how we calculate the EFC and what NAU does with that information. And I think providing some pointers for how to make senior year less stressful, because they oftentimes have so much going on senior year that the college application process gets added to that. And so I think if we can provide them with a timeline, it might be alleviating some stress for those students. For seniors, I think at that point in time, they've done enough research and want to know how does NAU compare to the rest of the country. So overloading them with some rankings and recognitions, covering the application process, sending in transcripts, what it is that we're looking for, and then once you've been admitted, what do those next steps to enrollment look like? And then finally, for transfer students, I think focusing specifically on their admissions requirements. Do I need to have an associate's degree before I can transfer in? What's the AJEC? What's the IGETC? And what are my resources available to me on campus? I think oftentimes for transfer students, they're past the rah-rah college stage, and so getting just to the facts and the points for the student would be most effective. So it really all starts with a detailed registration process. So if you're looking at our current website, nau.edu/schedule a visit, this page pops up and you'll see that you can schedule your campus visit clicking this link here. So of the campus visits that we have our daily campus visits with a sentence as a description, discover NAU programs, again with a very brief description of what the day entails, and then informational events closer to students who can't make it to campus for a visit. One thing that I think we could do a little bit better is revamp that landing page. So this is a page that I've created, and you'll see here we've got the visit your campus, because we really want students to invest and know that this is a decision that they are making. Becoming a part of NAU, so joining our mailing list right off the bat, but then providing more thorough explanations of what's going to be covered at each presentation. So for the NAU comes to you saying that this is specific to freshmen versus this is specific to seniors, and you'll see in the details what's covered. So for seniors, you're talking about the application process, explaining financial aid packaging, helping students through next steps, whereas for freshmen, we're looking at covering admissions requirements and a brief overview of financial aid policies and what the recommended path for future lumberjacks is. So again, talking through those admissions requirements and courses we recommend students to take. So if you click here, you would go to the registration page, and you can see on May 4th, NAU is hosting an event in Del Mar, California. So if you're interested in signing up for the event, you'd put your name, your email, .edu, all of your contact information into the page here. Oops. And your date of birth. And then the event date that you would like to come and visit. And you send that in. So that would be received by our admissions team. And from there, I think it'd be helpful to make sure that we're inviting those students, because now that they're a part of our system and it gets put into our PeopleSoft for processing, we can reach out to them and send them invitations to future events. And I think this will help with earlier outreach, especially for freshman students who typically we're skipping past and really only targeting juniors and seniors in that admissions presentation. So once you get through the presentation, let's say that a student doesn't end up attending. Well, this is an opportunity for us to connect with those students as well. So I've drafted up a sample email. Dear student, we missed you at the Del Mar event. To see what you might have missed, here's our website. And so at that point in time, a student can go to our Prezi and pull up the information that they missed. And so again, this was a freshman event that I registered for, and so it's going to look a little bit more familiar with what freshman students might be doing with their time. So you'll see here, contents loading. It looks like a Facebook page, which is something that I'm sure students are very familiar with. So a day in the life of Louie T. Lumberjack, who's our mascot at NAU. And so again, it's incorporating all of the different things that students are worried about as freshmen, and it's something that's familiar to them. So you've got your rankings, what the campus community looks like, what it's like to live on campus, and so on and so forth. So that's, again, an additional opportunity for us to reach out to students, even if they are unable to attend the event that we're hosting. And then it's also nice because you're identifying who their admissions person is and various ways that they can contact them in the event that their question can't be answered through the Prezi. So moving on, some anticipated challenges in the process. Maybe the registration won't go through online, our website crashes. And so I think one way to anticipate that is to have students in our phone center available to take registration over the phone, or for admissions officers to be knowledgeable about the process for registration, what we need from them to register them for the event. I think we need to know that not every student will attend every event, and so some of the information that's covered at the freshman session may not be covered at the senior session. But I think having those Prezi links to send out to students, well, here's what you missed, or we talked about that for juniors, here's our presentation, let us know if you have questions. Then there's the case where Prezi crashes, and if there's one thing I've learned about myself, it's that I like to know my topic well enough to where if Prezi crashes, I can still talk about the subject. And so again, by reaching out to the students that we might have missed and identifying who their admissions contact is in the office, I think they can feel comfortable to make that phone call to their respective admissions officer. And another thing to be aware of is that admissions policies are always changing, and so we would need a team dedicated to updating and maintaining those Prezi presentations so that the information that we're giving out to students is up to date. So some reflections on this project. I've learned that as a part of my teaching style, I really enjoy having visual aids, but again, I also need to know my subject well enough to where if my presentation or technology crashes, we can have a backup plan, and I think that's something we've addressed a couple of times in this course. It's certainly something that could be applicable towards the real world. As you saw, we have the registration page, but I think we could do a better job of identifying who our target audience is and identifying what the learning outcomes are for each of the events that we host. And finally, NIU is actually going to implement a client relations management system, so a CRM, and through that CRM, we're going to be able to find out what events a student has attended. We'll see any time that they've called our office and interacted with any department, advising, financial aid, admissions, and so we'll be more familiar with the information that they've already received so that we're not repeating ourselves, or knowing that, hey, I can back up my team member because this is what they've said, which is correct, and let's move forward with that. So it was a great project overall. I have my references listed here, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video.